technology perspective, but also the economic perspective. And that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind when we look across this big spectrum. What's different now, many economies now depending on the technologies that we're talking about today. So in order to bring the developing economies along, we have to do that cooperation to help each other along.
What do each of you consider the greatest threat to the security of democracies today? Is it a cyber attack? Is it a military attack?
I think I would say cybercrime is something which one is concerned about. But then drawing a line of where a cyber attack is simply a cyber espionage or one is getting into the next stage of information warfare, that is a little difficult because attribution is a major issue. I'll come back to that. And solving of cybercrimes also. If you look at the global cybercrimes, many of them remain unresolved. You can lead up to a certain point, but then because of lack of cooperation or lack of laws being there, that will is totally lacking. And one cannot actually go and ultimately solve the problems. So any of the, I would not like to name the attacks, but India has been a victim. And evidence collected, but then you go and stop at a particular point and you cannot go beyond that. And this has been the case if you use the word of cyber attack. Estonia is a very well-known case, and which was mentioned in the movie also.
Well, you know, it's hard to identify because we have such a range of bad actors out there. So I guess the thing that I probably worry about most is, irrespective of where it comes from, the vulnerabilities that exist today. And that's the issue. We've built this really great, rich, robust infrastructure that we all depend on, governments, businesses, individual end users, and yet there's plenty of bad actors out there to try to take care of it. So one of the things that I think we're looking at that we really worry about is how do we reduce the vulnerabilities without affecting the innovative capabilities of the companies that are running the infrastructure, the governments that are doing it, so we don't somehow chill the technology advancements we see. At the same token, make sure that if people are going to try to attack our infrastructure from whatever, they pay a pretty high price for it. And it's got to be higher than what their value of putting the attacks in space to do.
Where do, for example, I think all of us know about some of these scams that seem to originate in certain countries. We seem to find out about that. We hear about it. I get about 2 of them a week on my BlackBerry, and yet nothing seems much to be done about it. How do we change that?
I think the big challenge is that compared to classical threats or classical criminals or classical military conflicts, we have the same technology in all of these areas. And you, if you want to do an attack, you can sit somewhere on an island with some kind of a laptop and do this. So we face different challenges. We have to look how to deal with this different sectors of threats, let's to say. Then we have to look how can we cooperate on an international level. How do we deal with our legal framework so that if somebody is attacked in some country, how other countries can support it if the threat comes from this area. We still have areas on the world where if you sit there, you will never be caught by a police. So I think it's a global approach we need to see that if the global threat is discussed, I think this is something what we should take into account.
You know, it's one of the things I think it's a common misconception. There's not much being done, and there is. There's just a number of arrests being made in Eastern Europe in cooperation with Eastern European authorities and the U.S. authorities. We've seen across the world, literally, as we focus on these guys, that we're actually be able to not only identify them, collect the evidence, and bring it and successfully prosecute them. But what happens is that becomes one small part of the daily news, as you know as well as anyone. So the fact that 50 people were just arrested, it's just nothing more than a blip in the day of what's going on. A lot of activity. The G8, which expanded now probably close to 80 different nations, has a 24/7 operation, so we can do that internationally.
In India, we have been updating our laws. In fact, the Information Technology Act 2000 was updated or amended in the year 2008. It has been notified last year. So we don't modify laws so frequently and so quickly in India. So this act is particularly is a reflection of the fact that we are looking at cyber crimes more closely. So certain things which are not there to respond to your for example, the Nigerian crime and so on. So with the amended act, we can take care of many of such crimes. Cyber terrorism in particular has been specifically defined as a crime in the act, and we can extend cooperation to the law enforcement agencies outside. But then the major challenge is actually training our own law enforcement agencies and the judiciary. So this is a process which is, I think it's a long drawn process, and resources are a major challenge. And this is true in every country.
Is there also a certain public awareness here? I mean, do people yet recognize, I mean, we're having this conference, obviously, so there's a certain recognition, but it seems to me that with people have a lot of things to worry about these days, that maybe they're not worried about cybersecurity unless something happens to them, unless somebody steals their identity or something happens. Is this being underplayed? Should it be getting more attention? I mean, is this something that ranks up with when we used to worry about the nuclear weapons and during the time of the Cold War? Are we talking about things on that scale? Or is this something totally different from that?
Yeah, I think it's something totally different, because when you start looking across what we're doing, the end user, probably doesn't have a clue that when they're picking up a device and logging into something, that there are some risk out there. And that's part of where the awareness is, to show, there is something you need to worry about, but not stop using it. And that's always the balance we try to do. The other piece of it is we need to continuously, as we're trying to do, move sort of that battlefield, if you would, away from the end user, because they will never be security experts. They will never be great technologists. So consequently, trying to somehow teach them how to do that is just a lot of money and time wasted in doing so. But when you think about it, though, we have billions, if not trillions, of transactions that takes place successfully every day, and only a small part of the population are the ones that are affected by it globally. And just a quick example, in the United States, I think we have 29.6 million businesses. And when you say there's some number that's been affected by cybercrime, there's still a lot that are able to continue doing things as we see in the real world.
I think we still need much more awareness, and it's also, let's say, a problem of generation, because the generation I belong to, which grew up with this, it was in the business or some kind of IT experts who dealt with PCs, computers. And on the other hand, the broad community and citizens were not involved in this. So my sons were not educated by me in using a PC. When my son grows up, then I showed him how to ride a bicycle and drive a car, but not to use this technology. I think this is a basic problem if we now talk about Facebook or similar social networks, how people behave, because this education is missing in the schools, at the universities. Also, if you look in a lot of curricula in universities, at least when I talk about Germany, it's still missing in the computer science education to talk about IT security. So it's just coming the last few years. So this means it will take some time until these students in the end come into the industry and support these things. And another problem which is still missing if you look into other sectors like car manufacturing or aircraft manufacturing, we don't have this kind of quality assurance and process quality in building IT products. So I think this fast evolution of technology, something we didn't think about in the end how to build in IT security. So from this awareness to the citizens, and I think in the industry area, to put more quality into these products are some
What do you all think about the impact of the social media, of Facebook and YouTube? I mean, here yesterday we see Al-Qaeda going on YouTube to try to take credit for that car that was packed with that propane and stuff up there in Times Square. I mean, I think first reports are that maybe they don't know if there's a connection, but the fact that they would use YouTube just illustrates again how criminal elements, terrorists, will use